The outpost hung in the emptiness of space like a lonely jewel. Its hull was scratched and scarred from decades of micrometeorite impacts, and its lights flickered intermittently as though it were holding its breath. Beyond its thin shields, a silent void stretched endlessly, dotted with distant stars that seemed indifferent to the lives struggling inside. Inside the control room, Commander Vela Rin sat hunched over a console, her fingers moving in rapid, precise motions. Sweat dripped down her temples. Every screen screamed red alerts, hull breaches, power failures, life support irregularities, and worst of all, the alien fleet that had appeared out of nowhere now circling the outpost like predators surrounding prey. Vela's heart pounded in her chest. "All units, brace for impact," she said into the comm system. Her voice was steady, but a tremor of fear betrayed her calm. Around her, the crew scrambled. Engineers rushed to patch failing systems. Technicians ran diagnostics. On weapons arrays that were half offline, the first warning came in the form of a bright flash on the perimeter sensors. A massive alien drone, slicing through the outer defensive grid. The outpost shuddered as the drone's energy pulse struck the hull. Sparks flew. An alarm blared. Lieutenant Harrow, a young officer barely out of the academy, froze for a moment before shaking his head and turning to Vela. "Commander, we can't hold them. They're too strong. The shields won't last another minute." Vela's jaw tightened. She knew he was right. Their defenses were designed to protect against small-scale pirates or rogue ships, not a coordinated assault by an advanced alien force. But surrender was not an option. She straightened, tapping a sequence into the emergency communicator. "Send the distress signal," she ordered. "All frequencies. Every channel. Someone, anyone, must hear us." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Broadcasting a distress signal meant exposing their location fully. But they had no choice. Survival was on the line. Vela keyed the sequence, and the outpost's main transmitter flared to life. A pulse of coded signals streamed out into the void. It was a standard call for help, an SOS amplified to interstellar range, reaching every listening ship in the nearby sectors. And then they waited. Minutes stretched into hours. Every sound inside the control room, the whir of machinery, the alarm tones, the faint hum of life support, seemed louder in the tense silence. The alien drones began probing deeper into the outpost structure, cutting through reinforced bulkheads like they were paper. One of the crew whispered, almost to themselves, "No one is coming. No one will come." Vela's eyes flicked to the stars outside the viewport. She wanted to scream at them to tell them not to give up hope, but she knew fear could spread faster than courage. Instead, she focused on the screens, tracking the incoming drones, marking weak points in the hull, preparing every last line of defense. And then, almost imperceptibly at first, a change occurred. A tiny blip appeared on the long-range scanners. It was faint, a ripple of energy unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Lieutenant Harrow leaned forward. "Commander, I'm picking up a jump signature. It's massive, almost impossible to be a small vessel." Vela's breath caught. "Impossible? Explain. It's moving at hyperspeed. Calculated mass suggests?" "Massive, huge, larger than any known ship in this sector. It might be human." The word hung in the air. Human. The crew had grown up hearing stories about humanity's legendary dreadnoughts, massive warships capable of traveling light years in hours, armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Most species dismissed them as myths or old propaganda, but now the impossible was happening right before their eyes. On the main screen, the blip grew larger. Shapes emerged from the distortion of space, silhouettes of titanic ships, each one casting its own shadow across the void. The alien drones stopped in their tracks as though sensing a danger far beyond their comprehension. Vela felt a surge of hope. Her fingers flew across the console, amplifying communications. "This is Commander Vela Rin of Outpost Epsilon 6. We are under attack by unidentified alien forces. Request immediate assistance. Any responding forces, please? Hurry!" In the distance, the dreadnoughts continued to approach. Each vessel was an engineering marvel. Layered armor plating, multiple energy turrets, and massive propulsion cores glowing like miniature suns. Their presence alone warped the gravity of the system. The aliens were no longer predators. They were intruders in a hunting ground ruled by someone else entirely. Lieutenant Harrow swallowed hard.
They're coming for us.
The humans, they actually answered. Vela allowed herself a small smile. Yes, they came. And they'll make sure we survive. The first human dreadnought emerged from the void. Its main cannons glowed with a threatening blue light. Even without firing, the mere size of the ship caused the alien drones to scatter, some turning tail in panic, others attempting desperate attacks that failed before they could reach the humans. Look at them, whispered one of the engineers. They're perfect. Every movement, every maneuver, it's like they know exactly what we need. Vela nodded, her eyes never leaving the viewport. The alien fleet was beginning to regroup, sending reinforcements to surround the outpost. But the humans were already calculating intercept trajectories, positioning themselves to protect the beleaguered research station. The dreadnought commander's voice came over the universal translator, calm and authoritative. Outpost Epsilon 6, this is Fleet Command. You are safe. All remaining threats will be neutralized. Remain where you are. Trust in our arrival. Vela felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She wanted to stand, to cheer, but she remained at her console, holding herself together for the crew. Thank you, she whispered. Not just for her, but for everyone aboard the outpost. The first engagement began moments later. A human dreadnought fired a warning salvo, not lethal but precise. The alien fleet's lead ship was shredded by energy beams that danced across the void like liquid light. Smaller drones tried to retaliate, but human targeting systems predicted their movements before they could execute maneuvers. Impossible, muttered a communications officer. No species moves like that. No fleet coordinates like that. The dreadnoughts continued to advance, each ship protecting the outpost in a synchronized pattern that was both elegant and terrifying. The alien fleet, previously confident and ruthless, faltered. Panic spread among their ranks. They had underestimated humans. Vela allowed herself to breathe. She didn't know how the rest of the battle would unfold, but she knew this. Humanity's dreadnoughts had arrived. And with them, the outpost had a chance. For the first time in hours, the crew allowed themselves a moment of hope. They watched as the titanic ships of humanity positioned themselves between the outpost and the alien fleet, a shield of metal and firepower unlike anything in the known galaxy. And in that moment, as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, Vela realized something profound. Humanity did not just respond to calls for help. They answered them with unmatched precision, courage, and power. The alien fleet had thought they would conquer a small, helpless outpost. They had no idea that the species they underestimated was capable of bending space, light, and force to their will. The dreadnoughts were not just ships. They were symbols of a civilization that refused to let any call for help go unanswered. Vela turned to her crew, her voice steady but filled with quiet determination. Prepare for the next wave, she said. Humanity is here, and so are we. Outside, the dreadnoughts moved like giants in the void, engines glowing, weapons ready, a promise of power that no enemy could ignore. And for the first time in a long while, Outpost Epsilon 6 was no longer alone. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter as humanity's answer came. A reminder that no matter how distant or hopeless the call, there were those who would always come, and in the emptiness of space that hope was enough. The void around Outpost Epsilon 6 had become a theater of chaos. Alien warships flitted like shadows across the stars, their energy weapons lighting the darkness with deadly streaks. The research outpost, battered and trembling, held its breath as the titanic shapes of humanity's dreadnoughts moved between it and the enemy. Inside the control room, Commander Vela Rin watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of awe and fear. The screen showed energy beams cutting through space, alien drones exploding in bright showers of plasma, and massive human ships gliding like predators among their prey. The sight was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Lieutenant Harrow leaned forward, eyes wide. Commander, their movements, they're not just strong, they're perfect. Every action has a purpose. Look at how they're dividing the enemy forces. Vela nodded. Human dreadnoughts are not just machines. They are extensions of human will. Every decision, every maneuver, they are built to protect and to dominate when needed. Outside, the lead human dreadnought shifted its massive bulk, aligning its main cannons with precision that defied belief. It fired a concentrated salvo at an alien cruiser attempting to flank the outpost. The shot tore through the enemy ship, sending it spinning into the void, its energy cores erupting in brilliant light. A young engineer gasped. Did they just do that with one shot? Vela smiled faintly. They have mastered the art of prediction. They calculate every move the enemy could make and counter it before it happens. That is why humans survive, even against overwhelming odds. The alien fleet, confident moments before, now hesitated. Their ships began to scatter, trying to regroup and attack in coordinated waves. But every attempt was met with precise countermeasures. The human dreadnoughts were faster than anything in the sector, moving in ways that seemed impossible. They didn't just respond, they anticipated. From the observation deck of the outpost, scientists and crew watched in disbelief. A drone exploded nearby, sending fragments into space, but the human ships adjusted instantly, redirecting their energy shields to absorb stray blasts. The dreadnoughts' coordination was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. "This is incredible," whispered one of the researchers. "They're not just fighting, they're dancing through the battlefield." Vela's eyes remained fixed on the viewport. "It is the way humans fight. They adapt. They innovate. No plan is fixed because they think beyond the expected. They use every advantage and they never give up." The aliens tried a bold maneuver. 2 cruisers charged at the outpost, attempting to break through its shields. For a moment, it seemed the outpost would be overwhelmed. Then, without warning, one of the human dreadnoughts accelerated, slipping between the cruisers and the outpost like a shadow. Its massive hull glinted in the starlight, and its energy weapons fired in precise patterns, cutting through the alien ship's defenses. The cruisers shuddered under the assault, their shields failing, and they tumbled backward into space, retreating from the outpost. Lieutenant Harrow let out a low whistle. "Did you see that? They just stopped them, without even touching the outpost." Vela's voice was calm but firm. "That is humanity's strength. They protect not just with weapons, but with strategy, timing, and courage. The enemy does not understand humans yet." As the battle continued, more human ships arrived from hyperjump. One after another, dreadnoughts appeared in the system, their massive forms casting shadows across the void. The alien fleet tried to reorganize, sending waves of drones and small fighter ships to overwhelm the humans. But each wave was met with unmatched precision. The dreadnoughts moved with a unity that seemed almost living. Their weapons fired in synchronized volleys, their shields expanded and contracted in perfect rhythm, and their energy systems hummed with controlled power. Alien ships that had once been confident now retreated, their attacks faltering against a force they could not comprehend. Vela felt a flicker of hope. "They're driving them back," she said. "The outpost will survive. We are safe, for now." The alien commanders, observing from their command ships, were growing desperate. They had never faced a species like humanity. Their fleets were advanced, their weapons powerful, but the humans fought differently. They calculated, adapted, and struck with efficiency that made every alien maneuver seem clumsy. One alien officer hissed through the translator, his voice trembling. "We have underestimated them. These humans, they are not like any others we have met." On the outpost, the crew watched as a human dreadnought performed a maneuver that defied logic. It seemed to twist and turn in space, dodging multiple energy blasts simultaneously. Its cannons tracked 4 different targets at once, firing with unerring accuracy. One by one, enemy drones exploded or were sent spinning out of control. A scientist turned to Vela, eyes wide. "Commander, they're everywhere at once. How is that possible?" Vela's jaw tightened. "They are humans. That is all the explanation we need. They think differently, act faster, and refuse to fail. We are witnessing the difference between survival and domination." The alien fleet, sensing their disadvantage, tried a new tactic. A massive energy wave was charged, intended to disable the outpost's shields completely. The crew froze, knowing that if the attack landed, it could be the end. Then, without warning, the lead human dreadnought fired a countermeasure. A precise energy pulse intercepted the alien wave mid-space, dispersing it harmlessly. The alien ship staggered back, caught off guard by the human technology and precision. Lieutenant Harrow's mouth hung open. They saved us before it even hit." Vela's voice was steady. "That is the difference between humans and others. We do not react to threats. We prevent them, always." The outpost crew began to work more confidently. Repairs were made faster, systems brought online with renewed efficiency, and emergency protocols were managed with less panic. The presence of the human dreadnoughts instilled a sense of calm and courage that no machine or weapon could have done alone. As the battle dragged on, It became clear that the alien fleet had no chance of victory. Every tactic they tried was countered with exact precision. Their numbers were large, but their coordination and strategy could not match the humans. Vela allowed herself a small smile. They are not just saving us. They are teaching us what it means to survive when all hope seems lost. Outside, the stars glimmered coldly, reflecting the light of the distant explosions. Yet among the destruction, there was order. Humans moving as one, a force that could not be intimidated or broken. The Dreadnoughts were massive, unyielding, and brilliant. Each movement was calculated, each attack devastating, and each defense impenetrable. The alien fleet began to retreat, scattering into the void in disarray. Some ships tried to flee toward unknown systems. Others sought to hide behind asteroids and debris. But humanity's Dreadnoughts were patient. They did not chase recklessly. They maintained formation, ensuring the outpost's safety while teaching the enemy a lesson in discipline and power. Vela turned to her crew, her eyes shining. Remember this moment. Remember what it feels like to be protected by humans. Remember the courage, the strategy, and the will to never fail. This is why humanity survives. The crew nodded, some with tears in their eyes. They had seen power before, but never like this. They had heard stories of humanity's Dreadnoughts, but now they understood. These were not just ships. They were extensions of the human spirit, unyielding, intelligent, and unstoppable when defending life and justice. For the first time in days, the outpost felt secure. The alien threat had not been completely destroyed, but it had been neutralized for now. The Dreadnoughts held the system, a silent wall of strength that no enemy dared challenge. Commander Vela Rin allowed herself to breathe, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The battle was not over, but the presence of humans had changed everything. They had not just saved the outpost, they had shown the galaxy why humanity was feared, respected, and revered. And as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, Vela realized a truth she had never understood so clearly before. When humans answered a call for help, they did so with unmatched power, brilliance, and resolve. Outside, the Dreadnoughts glided through the void, moving as one, guardians, warriors, and saviors in equal measure. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. The void around Outpost Epsilon 6 was now a battlefield of light and shadow. Alien ships that had once approached with arrogance now hesitated, their formations broken. Human Dreadnoughts moved like giants through the chaos, each ship calculated and deliberate, every movement precise. Commander Vela Rin stood at the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the massive silhouettes of the human fleet. The trembling fear that had dominated the crew for hours was slowly replaced by awe. The Dreadnoughts were not just defending, they were taking control of the battle entirely. Lieutenant Harrow leaned toward her, whispering, They're coordinating perfectly. It's like they know what the aliens are going to do before they do it. Vela nodded. That is exactly what they're doing. Humans have an instinct for strategy. They don't just fight, they dominate. In space, the first major confrontation began. A group of alien cruisers attempted to surround the outpost, hoping to overwhelm it with concentrated fire. Their energy beams streaked across the void, threatening to tear through the outpost's shields. But the human Dreadnoughts were ready. One of the massive ships moved between the outpost and the alien formation, its hull radiating energy as it activated defensive countermeasures. The alien beams hit the human shield and were reflected harmlessly into space. Commander, they just absorbed the entire volley, Lieutenant Harrow said, astonished. Yes, Vela replied quietly. They protect, they endure, and they respond with overwhelming force. Humanity fights for survival and victory. The lead human Dreadnought fired its main cannons, releasing a stream of energy that tore through the closest alien cruiser. The blast was precise, hitting vital systems and disabling weapons instantly. The cruiser spun out of control, flares of fire and debris marking its defeat. Another Dreadnought executed a daring maneuver. It slingshotted around an asteroid, using its gravity to accelerate and fire upon multiple targets simultaneously. Alien ships tried to evade, but the Dreadnought's targeting system predicted every move. Within moments, 3 enemy drones were disabled, leaving the aliens in disarray. From the outpost's observation deck, the crew gasped. How can one ship do so much at once? Asked one of the engineers. Vela's gaze remained steady on the void. Humans combined skill, technology, and intuition, One human dreadnought is not just a ship, it is a force multiplier. They think faster, adapt faster, and act without hesitation. The alien fleet, seeing their losses mount, attempted a new strategy. A massive energy net was launched intended to trap the outpost and human ships in a crippling web. The crew braced for impact, certain that the net would destroy their home and the dreadnoughts alike. But the humans were ready. One of the dreadnoughts fired a precise pulse that fragmented the net before it could reach the outpost. Simultaneously, another dreadnought used a focused energy wave to push the alien ships backward, scattering their formation. Lieutenant Harrow could hardly believe what he saw. They countered it before it even reached us. Every move, every attack. They respond instantly. Vela allowed herself a small smile. This is why humanity survives. They are patient, clever, and never predictable. They do not wait for victory, they create it. The battle intensified. Smaller alien fighter ships attempted to dart around the dreadnoughts, hoping to find weak points. But the humans anticipated every maneuver. Energy beams sliced through the fighters mid-flight, while drones were trapped in gravitational fields generated by the dreadnought's technology. Each alien attempt to escape or strike back failed, leaving the enemy fleet fragmented and panicked. Vela turned to the communication officer. "Status report on the outpost shields. All systems stabilizing, Commander. Human presence is holding the alien attacks at bay. Damage is minimal compared to before." "Good," Vela said, relief in her voice. "We can survive." "Thanks to them." Outside, a human dreadnought prepared its next move. The ship activated a gravity manipulation array, a massive device designed to control nearby celestial objects. It targeted a small asteroid field near the alien fleet. With precise calculations, the dreadnought sent the asteroids hurtling toward the enemy formation. The alien ships had no time to react. Cries of alarm erupted over the alien comms, but it was too late. The asteroids smashed into the cruisers, tearing through hulls and energy shields. Several alien ships exploded instantly while others were pushed into disarray, colliding with debris or fleeing in panic. The crew of Outpost Epsilon 6 watched in stunned silence. Did they just use asteroids as weapons?" one of the scientists asked. Vela nodded. "Humans do not fight with limits. They use every advantage the universe offers. That is what makes them dangerous and unbeatable." The alien fleet was now in full retreat. Commanders barked orders, but confusion reigned. Their technology was advanced, their numbers high, yet they could not withstand the intelligence, coordination, and sheer audacity of humanity's dreadnoughts. Harrow shook his head in disbelief. "They can't be real. One species, and they control all of this?" "They are real," Vela said firmly, "and we are lucky they are on our side. Humanity does not fight for conquest, they fight for survival, for honor, and for those who call for help." The human dreadnoughts maintained formation as the aliens fled. They did not pursue recklessly, but they ensured no ship could return to regroup. Every movement was calculated to protect the outpost while demonstrating humanity's dominance. Vela's heart swelled with pride and relief. The dreadnoughts were not just ships, they were symbols of a civilization that would answer any call, no matter how distant, no matter how hopeless. The outpost crew began coordinating repairs, guided by the humans' example of precision and calm under pressure. Systems that had been offline for hours were restored, life support stabilized, and emergency power rerouted efficiently. The presence of humanity's dreadnoughts inspired confidence that no weapon or strategy could break. From her position, Vela watched as the lead dreadnought sent a wave of energy pulses to sweep the surrounding debris, clearing the area for safe recovery. It was not an act of aggression, it was a calculated protection measure, ensuring that the outpost and its crew remained safe. The alien fleet, now scattered and disoriented, sent a few final attempts at retaliation, but the humans anticipated every move, intercepting attacks with shields, energy bursts, and precise counterfire. Within minutes, the threat was neutralized. The void returned to a tense calm, the silence of space once more interrupted only by the hum of the human dreadnought's engines. Commander Vela Rin allowed herself a deep breath. "We are alive," she said softly. "Because of them, we are alive." Harrow looked out the viewport, awestruck. "They didn't just save us. They changed everything. The aliens, they can never think of humans the same way again." Vela nodded. "And that is exactly the point. Humans are not just fighters, They are protectors, innovators, and warriors unlike any other. The galaxy will remember this day, not because of the aliens, but because of humanity. Outside, the stars reflected off the hulls of the human dreadnoughts, casting glimmers of light across the darkness. The fleet remained in position, vigilant and ready for any threat that might appear. They were not seeking glory, they were fulfilling a promise, that no call for help would go unanswered. The outpost crew began to work with renewed energy. Engineers repaired damage, scientists recalibrated instruments, and the sense of despair that had gripped the station hours before was replaced by hope. Humanity's presence was not just protection, it was inspiration. Vela turned to her team. Remember this. Humanity answers every call, no matter the distance, no matter the odds. Today we survive because of them. Tomorrow, we will carry that lesson forward. And as the dreadnoughts glided silently through the void, the outpost's crew knew something profound. The galaxy had changed. Humans had shown what it meant to fight with intelligence, courage, and honor. They had demonstrated that strength alone was not enough. Wisdom, speed, and moral purpose were what made a species truly powerful. The alien fleet had learned a lesson they would not forget. And the crew of Outpost Epsilon 6 would never forget the sight of humanity's dreadnoughts. The giants of space who had answered a desperate call, turning the tide of battle with unmatched skill and courage. In that silent, cold void, a promise echoed. Humanity was watching, and when they arrived, no cry for help would ever be unanswered. The silence after battle was almost deafening. The void around Outpost Epsilon 6 was littered with debris, twisted hulls of alien ships, smoking fragments of drones, and shattered energy shields drifting like frozen fire across the darkness. Yet in the midst of destruction, the outpost itself remained mostly intact, protected by humanity's dreadnoughts. Commander Vela Rin walked through the control room, observing her crew as they worked tirelessly. Engineers patched minor hull breaches. Technicians recalibrated damaged systems, and scientists pored over data collected during the battle. But despite their activity, all eyes often drifted toward the viewport, where the massive silhouettes of the human dreadnoughts held steady, scanning the void for any remaining threats. Lieutenant Harrow finally broke the silence. "Commander, do you realize what we just witnessed? The aliens? They were supposed to wipe us out. But the humans, they didn't just save us. They changed the outcome of this entire sector." Vela nodded, a quiet pride in her eyes. "They didn't just change it, Lieutenant. They redefined it. The galaxy will never see a species like humanity the same way again." Outside, the lead human dreadnought detached from the protective formation and approached the outpost with deliberate caution. Its massive hull reflected distant starlight, a reminder of the sheer scale of human engineering. Small maintenance ships launched from its sides, gliding toward the outpost to assist with repairs. On the observation deck, the crew watched, mesmerized. These were not just warships. They were instruments of hope, capable of enormous destruction yet designed to preserve life whenever possible. One of the engineers whispered, "They're helping us. After everything." They could leave and the aliens would still fear them, but they stayed. Vela allowed herself a small smile. That is humanity. They fight to protect, not just to dominate. Power without purpose is meaningless. The humans understand that better than anyone. Outside, small drones repaired the outpost's damaged shields, reinforcing weak points. Energy conduits that had been severed were reconnected with swift precision. Life support systems, previously operating at minimal capacity, now hummed with steady reliability. For the first time in days, the outpost felt truly secure. A communications officer turned toward Vela. "Commander, alien survivors are attempting to communicate. They seem confused, maybe even respectful." Vela raised an eyebrow. "Put them through." On the screen, an alien commander's image flickered into view. His expression was a mixture of disbelief and humility. "We underestimated your species. We thought we could crush a small outpost. But your dreadnoughts, your humans, they are unlike anything we expected." Vela held her gaze steady. "You judged us by size and number alone. Humans fight with courage, intelligence, and honor. That is why you failed. Your ships are strong, but your strategy was predictable. Humanity is not." There was silence on the alien side before he replied, voice trembling slightly. We will remember this. Humanity is not to be underestimated." Vela turned to her crew, letting the moment sink in. This is a lesson not just for them, but for all of us. Strength alone does not ensure survival. Intelligence, courage, and moral purpose define true power. The aliens ended the communication and the void returned to a fragile calm. The outpost crew felt a weight lift from their shoulders. They had survived, and they had witnessed a force unlike any in the galaxy. Human dreadnoughts remained in orbit for hours, assisting with recovery and ensuring no hidden threats remained. Their presence was steady, unwavering, and precise. Even the smallest tasks, like recalibrating energy fields or guiding debris to safe locations, were handled with meticulous care. Vela walked among her crew, offering quiet words of encouragement. Look at them. Observe every move. Learn. Humanity does not panic. They do not give in. They adapt and they fight with purpose. That is why they answer every call for help. The crew worked alongside human engineers and drones, observing their methods. Repairs were faster, systems more efficient, and mistakes almost non-existent. The outpost had survived an attack that would have destroyed most stations, and the reason was clear. Humanity's presence had transformed fear into action, and chaos into order. Lieutenant Harrow spoke quietly to Vela, his voice filled with awe. Commander, they're more than ships. They're symbols. The galaxy will never forget this day. Vela nodded. Yes, Lieutenant. Humanity is more than technology or firepower. They are courage, determination, and intelligence made manifest. Every civilization will know that when humans arrive, hope follows. Beyond the outpost, distant systems began to detect the human dreadnought's presence. Neighboring alien sectors monitored the battle's outcome and noted the total domination of the humans. Word would spread quickly. Stories of massive ships, perfect coordination, and an unwavering will to protect would travel faster than any scout ship. Even among allies who had never seen humans in action, whispers began. They do not fight like others, one diplomat transmitted. They calculate, anticipate, and innovate. Their presence changes the outcome of any battle. Humanity is extraordinary. Back at the outpost, Vela oversaw the final repairs. The shields were at full strength. Energy systems operated better than before the attack. Crew morale, previously fragile, now surged with confidence and hope. Humanity had not just saved them, they had inspired them. The lead human dreadnought's commander requested a brief meeting via secure comm. The screen flickered, revealing a calm, confident human officer. Commander Rin, the outpost is secure. No threat remains in this sector. All alien forces have retreated. We will remain for observation until you confirm stability. You may resume normal operations. Vela's relief was profound. Thank you. Your arrival changed everything. We owe our lives to your fleet. The human commander nodded, voice steady. It is our duty. No call for help is ever ignored. Humanity answers. Always. As the communication ended, Vela turned to her team. This is more than a rescue. This is a lesson. We have seen what humans are capable of. Power, strategy, and honor combined. Remember this. Learn from it. Carry it forward. For hours, the dreadnoughts remained in orbit, guiding the outpost through final repairs and monitoring for any hidden threats. Their presence was reassuring, a living testament to the reliability and courage of humanity. Finally, as night fell across the system, the dreadnoughts prepared to depart. Their massive engines glowed faintly, illuminating the outpost one last time. Vela watched, her heart filled with gratitude and awe. Lieutenant Harrow whispered, Commander, they're leaving, but it feels like they're still here. Like a shadow watching over us. Vela nodded. That is humanity's gift. Even when they leave, their influence remains. The galaxy will remember this, and we will carry their example forward. The dreadnoughts jumped to hyperspace, leaving the outpost intact, the aliens defeated, and the crew inspired. A new sense of purpose filled the station. Humanity had not just saved them. They had shown the true meaning of courage, strategy, and moral power. In the quiet that followed, the crew began to rebuild, stronger and wiser. They worked with precision, inspired by what they had seen. Systems were repaired faster, coordination improved, and morale soared. Humanity's influence had transformed them. Commander Vela stood at the observation deck one last time before retiring. The void stretched endlessly, stars shining like distant promises. Humanity's dreadnoughts had left, but their presence lingered, a symbol of hope, strength, and unmatched skill. Remember this day. she said softly. The humans came. They saved us. And the galaxy will never forget it. The crew nodded silently, each one carrying a spark of inspiration. They had witnessed the power of humans, the giants who answered a call for help with courage, precision, and honor. And they knew that the universe would never be the same. The stars of the outer system shimmered quietly, as if acknowledging the calm that had returned after the storm of battle. Outpost Epsilon 6 floated intact among debris, its shields fully restored and its systems operating at peak efficiency. The once frantic crew moved with newfound confidence, guided by the lessons they had observed from humanity's dreadnoughts. Commander Vela Rin walked to the observation deck, her gaze drifting over the void. The dreadnoughts were gone, having returned to hyperspace after ensuring the outpost's safety. Yet their presence lingered like a shadow over the stars, a silent reminder that humanity was watching, ready to answer any call for help. Lieutenant Harrow joined her, leaning on the railing. They're gone, he said quietly, but it doesn't feel like it. Their presence, it's still here. I can feel it, Vela nodded. That is the way of humans. They leave an impression that lasts far beyond their physical presence. Their actions, their courage, their intelligence, it echoes across the galaxy. The outpost crew moved about the station, repairing equipment and stabilizing operations. The air was filled with quiet conversation, discussion about the battle, and reflections on the humans they had witnessed. Each story was tinged with awe. The dreadnoughts had not only defended the outpost, they had inspired a sense of hope and confidence that would never fade. One of the engineers turned to Vela. Commander, do you think other civilizations will understand what they saw? The humans. They're not just ships, they're something more. Vela smiled. Yes, they are more. They are courage, intellect, and honor made tangible. The galaxy may try to underestimate humans, but anyone who witnesses them firsthand will never forget. Humanity sets a standard no other species can match. Beyond the outpost, sensors detected distant alien fleets, hesitant and careful. Word of the battle had spread faster than any messenger. Reports came in from neighboring systems, alien fleets reconsidering their actions, some reinforcing their borders, others attempting diplomatic contact. The galaxy was slowly learning that humans were not just fighters, they were guardians. Vela observed the data, noting the reactions of nearby species. Look at this, she said to her staff. The galaxy is already responding. They saw what humans can do, and now they respect it, or fear it. Either way, the balance has shifted. Lieutenant Harrow leaned closer to the console. Commander, it's incredible. The humans didn't even stay to enforce dominance. They just protected us and left, and yet their influence is already spreading. Yes, Vela said, and that is what makes humanity special. Power without restraint is meaningless. Humans wield their strength with purpose. They fight to protect, not to conquer. That is why every civilization that sees them is changed forever. The crew paused as a transmission arrived from a nearby human monitoring station. The voice of a human officer, calm and confident, filled the room. Outpost Epsilon 6, this is Fleet Command. Your station is secure. No remaining threats detected. All alien forces have retreated. Continue normal operations. Humanity answers every call for help. Remember that. Vela nodded, her hands gripping the railing. That is humanity, she said softly. They do not fight for glory or conquest. They fight because it is right, and they always answer. The transmission ended, leaving a quiet that felt full of promise. The outpost crew reflected on the battle, the dreadnoughts, and the lessons they had learned. Courage, intelligence, precision, and moral purpose. These were the qualities that had turned a hopeless situation into a triumph. Outside the outpost, the debris of the alien fleet slowly drifted, reminders of a failed attack. The humans had shown restraint, never striking the outpost unnecessarily, never seeking revenge. Their goal had been simple: protect the lives of those who called for help. And they had achieved it flawlessly. Vela turned to her team. We have seen what it means to be human, not just in power but in spirit. Remember this. Let it guide your actions. Humanity has shown us the way forward. The outpost's communication officer interrupted her thoughts. Commander, distant sectors are requesting detailed reports. They want to know how humans operate, how they respond, and what we witnessed. The galaxy is already talking about them. Yes, Vela said, and it is important that we report accurately. The story of humanity must be told truthfully, so others understand not just their strength, but their honor and strategy. Meanwhile, back in human space, Dreadnoughts regrouped and prepared for future missions. The crews were disciplined, their AI systems coordinated, and their leadership calm. They had not come to conquer or to boast. They had come to answer a call for help, and they had done so with perfection. One human captain spoke to his fleet. "The outpost is secure. They survived. That is our mission accomplished. Humanity does not abandon those in need. We do not need accolades. The galaxy will remember the lesson. Our duty is to protect, to respond, and to endure." And in that moment, the fleet moved onward, silent and formidable, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned a new truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated, feared recklessly, or dismissed. They were guardians, innovators, and warriors of unmatched skill. Back at Outpost Epsilon 6, Vela and her crew watched the stars, reflecting on what had occurred. They had survived because humans had arrived. They had seen courage, intelligence, and morality manifested in metal and energy, and they had learned that no matter the odds, humanity would answer the call. Lieutenant Harrow broke the silence. "Commander, what happens now? Will humans return?" Vela looked out into the void. "Perhaps. But even if they do not, their presence has left a mark. The galaxy knows what humans are capable of. Their shadow looms over every civilization now, and that shadow is not one of fear alone. It is one of hope, of protection, and of inspiration." The crew nodded. Each one felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just researchers and engineers. They were witnesses to humanity's greatness. They had seen the difference humans made, not just with firepower, but with courage, strategy, and heart. Days passed. The outpost resumed normal operations. Trade ships began to approach again. Communication networks were restored. And across distant systems, rumors of humanity's dreadnoughts spread, carried by alien diplomats, merchants, and scouts. Every story told added to the legend. Humans were not only powerful, they were reliable, honorable, and extraordinary. Vela addressed her crew one final time. "Remember what you have seen. Humanity does not fight for conquest. They fight for life, for justice, and for those who cannot defend themselves. That is why they answer, and that is why the galaxy will never be the same." The crew dispersed, inspired by the words and by the memory of the Dreadnoughts' actions. Outside the outpost, the stars continued to shine, silent witnesses to a civilization that had proven itself in the most spectacular way. And somewhere in the void, human dreadnoughts continued their patrols, guardians of countless worlds, watchers of the galaxy, always ready. They would answer every call, face every threat, and protect life wherever it was threatened. The galaxy had learned a truth it could not ignore. Humanity was unmatched, not merely in technology or numbers, but in spirit, intelligence, and courage. When humans arrived, hope arrived with them. When they fought, the impossible became possible. And when they chose to protect, the universe itself held its breath in awe. Outpost Epsilon 6 would remember this day forever. Its crew would carry the lessons and inspiration forward. Other civilizations would speak in whispers of the species that answered every cry for help, whose dreadnoughts moved like giants in the void, whose will was unbreakable, and whose presence brought both awe and hope. The stars stretched endlessly. Humanity's shadow loomed over the galaxy, not as a threat but as a promise. When humans arrived, no cry for help would ever go unanswered. And with that promise, the galaxy entered a new era, one in which humanity's courage, skill, and honor would forever shape the future.